Impeached President of South Korea, Yoon Suk Yeol around noon on Wednesday, according to the Asia country local time, surrendered himself for arrest to the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials, CIO, after the CIO led over 3,000 policemen to invade the residence of the impeached president early morning night at about 1 a.m. on Wednesday, breaking barriers mounted by over 200 personnel of Presidential Security Service (PSS) who have shielded him from arrest since he was impeached by the country's parliament over short-lived martial law he declared in December 2024. The impeached South Korean president, Yoon Suk Yeol, in a pre-recorded video message, said he decided to surrender to the CIO to avoid bloodshed, insisting the arrest warrant was illegal and executed by force even when CIO lacked the authority to investigate the case. CIO said since Yoon was detained in their facility, the impeached president has refused to utter a word or respond to their questions. I decided to respond to the CIO's investigation, despite it being an illegal investigation, to prevent unsavory bloodshed, Yoon said in the pre-recorded statement. After the hour's standoff, at noon, Yoon's motorcade was later seen leaving his residence in an upscale area known as Seoul's Beverly Hills. It arrived at the investigator's office but was quickly surrounded by security and moved to the back of the building, where Yoon slipped in, evading the waiting media. Authorities now have 48 hours to question Yoon, after which they must seek a warrant to detain him for up to 20 days or release him, according to news reporters monitoring the situation in Seoul. Yoon, who faces charges of insurrection over his short-lived effort to impose martial law in December 2024, is the first sitting president in the nation's history to be arrested. He could face the death penalty or life in jail if he is found guilty of insurrection, according to local observers. Yonhap News Agency had reported that investigators passed through another line of blockers in second attempt to detain Yoon. Investigators locked in standoff with presidential security in second attempt to detain Yoon. Fire authorities transport one injured in standoff outside presidential residence. Such detention warrants against Yoon to remain valid until January 21st. Investigators in physical clash as the attempt to forcibly enter presidential residence. Investigators warned that attempts to resist Yoon's detention could lead to arrest. Yoon's lawyers say warrant to detain Yoon invalid. Police deploy some 3,000 personnel outside presidential residence to secure access. Yoon's lawyers arrive at presidential residence, protest against attempts to detain impeached president. Adding, investigators used ladders to enter the presidential residence compound Wednesday in their second attempt to detain impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol over his short-lived imposition of martial law. As of 7:30 a.m., dozens of police officials had entered the compound in central Seoul and passed through a barricade to carry out warrants to detain Yoon and search his residence. About half an hour they began their attempt. Investigators were initially blocked by the Presidential Security Service, which set up a barricade using vehicles near the entrance. They were also blocked by a group of lawmakers from the ruling People Power Party and Yoon's lawyers at the entrance. Some investigators appeared to attempt to secure access to the compound through a nearby hiking trail. On Tuesday, Yonhap had reported that a military unit guarding the presidential residence on Tuesday approved the entry of police and anti-corruption agency officials into the presidential residence to detain impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol, officials said. Upon request by the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials, CIO, the unit under the Capital Defense Command said that it will allow investigators from the CIO, police and the Ministry of Defense to access the presidential residence, according to the CIO. The unit is responsible for guarding the outside of the presidential residence. The move is anticipated to help police and CIO officials carry out their second attempt to detain Yoon, expected to take place early Wednesday. But earlier in the day, the Presidential Security Service suggested it will block the attempt, claiming a forced entry into Yoon's residence would be illegal and vowing to respond in line with its security protocols. Meanwhile, Kim Song-hoon, Deputy Chief of Security and current leader of the PSS that was protecting President Yoon, had been arrested during the standoff. Supporters of South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol have gathered outside his official residence to once again prevent him from being arrested. The Yonhap news agency said at least 6,500 supporters have assembled, and some ruling party lawmakers were forming a human chain. Participants are chanting, "Arrest Lee Jae-myung." Paul Sung-won Kim in an ex-social media tweet said during the standoff that the current scene in front of the president's residence shows a rally in support of President Yoon. It is now approaching 1 a.m. Korean time, with a wind chill of -9 degrees Celsius. Crowds are gathering following reports that the CO and police may attempt to forcibly arrest the president in a few hours. 2 CIO vehicles have arrived in front of the presidential residence, Yonhap News TV reported earlier, referring to the Corruption Investigation Office investigating Yoon. On Tuesday, South Korea's Constitutional Court adjourned the opening session of the impeachment trial of suspended President Yoon Suk Yeol within minutes after the embattled leader did not attend court. A lawyer advising Yoon has said the president, who has been holed up in his hillside villa in Seoul for weeks, would not attend, saying a bid by authorities to detain him prevented Yoon from expressing his position at the trial. The next trial session is scheduled for Thursday, and if Yoon also does not attend, the trial proceedings will go ahead with his legal team representing him, Acting Chief Justice Moon Ayong-bae said. Outside the court, one of Yoon's lawyers, Yoon Suk Yeol, said the president would decide whether to go to court in person on Thursday after discussions on his defense strategy. The Constitutional Court must decide within 180 days whether to remove Yoon from office or restore his presidential powers. Yoon also faces a criminal investigation for alleged insurrection, with authorities seeking to execute an arrest warrant after he ignored summons to appear for questioning. A legitimate warrant must exist, and it must be legally presented and executed, which does not mean jumping fences or damaging property without presenting a warrant, his lawyer Yoon said, repeating that the current arrest warrant was invalid. Yoon's declaration of martial law on December 3, 2024 that was withdrawn after about 6 hours has plunged one of Asia's most vibrant democracies into a period of unprecedented political turbulence. The Defense Ministry said Tuesday that military forces in charge of presidential security would not be mobilized in relation to Yoon's warrant execution. Reuters showed a video footage of hundreds of police officers marching up the road leading to his hillside villa, where he has been holed up for weeks guarded by a small army of personal security. A previous arrest attempt on January 3, 2025 failed after a 6-hour standoff between investigators and Yoon's presidential security agents and military guards. South Korean impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol in the recorded speech released minutes before his arrest said, "Dear citizens, how have you been? I would like to thank you so much for cheering me on and giving me so much support. Unfortunately, the law has completely collapsed in this country. It is truly regrettable to see warrants being issued to agencies without investigative authority, and courts without warrant review authority issuing arrest warrants and search and seizure warrants, and investigative agencies issuing false official documents to deceive the public, committing such illegal acts and forcibly proceeding with procedures using invalid warrants. Even though I am disadvantaged like this, I really hope that this kind of thing will not happen to our citizens in the future when they experience criminal cases like this. Today, I saw them infiltrating the security zone using firefighting equipment, and in order to prevent an unpleasant bloodshed, I decided to appear before the public prosecutor's office, even though it is an illegal investigation. However, I do not approve of the investigation by this public prosecutor's office. As the president, who must protect the constitution and legal system of the Republic of Korea. Responding to such illegal and invalid procedures does not mean acknowledging them, but rather is merely trying to prevent unpleasant bloodshed. Seeing the people, especially our youth, truly recognizing the value of liberal democracy and showing passion for it, I have come to believe that although these are dark times when the law is collapsing, the future of this country is hopeful. Dear citizens, I hope you stay healthy and strong. Thank you. Few days ago, we had earlier reported that there are indications that the criminal investigators in South Korea have mobilized over 2,000 police to wear down or overcome the men of the Presidential Security Service, PSS, currently protecting the country's impeached president, Yoon Suk Yeol, from being arrested after court reissued order of arrest on Tuesday when the previous court order expired with failed attempt by the criminal investigators to carry out the arrest order last week due to standoff mounted by heavily armed PSS. Local media on Wednesday reported that the South Korea's Presidential Security Service, an agency assigned to protect the president, prides itself on being the last bastion for a safe and stable state administration, is now at the heart of South Korea's biggest political mess in decades, acting as a final line of defense to prevent criminal investigators from detaining President Yoon Suk Yeol. The media reported that the impeached South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol's residence has been turned into a fortress, with layers of barbed wire and vehicle blockades protecting the elusive leader as at on Wednesday. It was gathered that the 64-year-old former prosecutor was at home when investigators carried out their failed attempt to arrest him last week and was still there until early this week, the Yonhap news agency, citing police, reported on Wednesday. The criminal investigators said they are now unsure of his whereabouts as Yoon keeps them guessing behind a wall of protection even though a new warrant cleared the way for renewed efforts to arrest him. I am considering various possibilities, Corruption Investigation Office, CIO, Chief Oh Dong-woon said on Tuesday in response to a lawmaker who asked if Yoon had already fled. South Korea's Presidential Security Service was seen fortifying the hillside villa where President Yoon Suk Yeol is believed to be, according to media reporters on ground monitoring the situation. Reuters on Wednesday stated that various scenarios reported in local media included mobilizing police special tactical units and heavy equipment to push through the barricades, followed by more than 2,000 police to drag out presidential guards, taking as long as 3 days if necessary to wear down presidential security agents. Adding, protesters both supporting and opposing the embattled Yoon have continued to brave freezing temperatures to stage rallies on the streets around the presidential compound on Wednesday after a court reissued a warrant to arrest Yoon earlier on Tuesday. The Presidential Security Service, PSS, was seen this week fortifying the compound with barbed wire and barricades using buses to block access to the hillside villa where Yoon is believed to be, having defied summons to appear for questioning. South Korea impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol is facing a new and potentially more robust attempt to arrest him for insurrection after a top investigator vowed to do whatever it takes to break a security blockade and take in the impeached leader. He also faces an impeachment trial in the Constitutional Court. One of Yoon's lawyers in a statement on Wednesday said, the president could not accept the execution of the arrest warrant because it was issued by a court in the wrong jurisdiction and the CIO had no authority to investigate the incumbent leader. Yoon Suk Yeol, the lawyer, also denied suggestions by some members of parliament that Yoon had fled the official residence, saying he had met the president there on Tuesday. He said they were malicious rumors intended to slander Yoon. On Tuesday, Oh Dong-woon, head of the Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials, CIO, which is leading the investigation into Yoon, apologized for failing to arrest the president last week after a 6-hour standoff with hundreds of PSS agents and military guards at the compound. We'll do our best to accomplish our goal by thoroughly preparing this time with great determination that the second warrant execution will be the last, Oh said during the Parliament Committee meeting. At the Parliament Committee meeting, or refused to specify how many days the court had given before the new arrest warrant expired, citing a need to keep plans for the new attempt internal. Yoon's home, a former foreign ministry residence, is nestled in Hanam-dong, an affluent Seoul neighborhood along the Han River renowned for its luxurious homes, some of the country's most expensive. It is also popular with K-pop stars, reportedly including members of the megagroup BTS, and hosts many foreign embassies. Situated in Yongsan District, which stationed colonial troops during Japanese rule and American troops after World War II, it now plays host to Yoon's own legion, according to AFP.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, has confirmed that more than 15,000 personnel including international firefighters have taken position in Los Angeles ahead of the red flag warning of more wildfires with stronger winds expected through Wednesday in the California city, with President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine ordering 150 of his firefighters to move to the United States of America, U.S. county to save lives. The state governor, Gavin Newsom, also confirmed that more than 1,460 fire engines, 80 aircrafts, 170 water tenders and 175 dozers have been deployed to Southern California to battle the historic wildfires, with more higher winds expected to pick up this week. CAL FIRE in a statement said, more than 15,000 personnel, including state, local, federal, tribal, out-of-state, and international resources, are actively responding to historic fires in the Los Angeles region, with additional resources pre-positioned ahead of red flag conditions expected through Wednesday. Key updates: Palisades Fire, 23,700 plus acres burned, 14% containment. Eaton Fire, 14,000 plus acres burned, 33% containment. Hearst Fire, 95% contained. Red flag warnings remain in effect, with forecasted damaging winds 55-70 miles per hour (mph) and low humidity creating extreme fire danger. CAL FIRE has pre-positioned additional resources and set up a mobilization center to respond quickly to new threats. Crews are working around the clock to repair infrastructure, remove hazards, and prepare for safe repopulation once red flag conditions subside, expected Wednesday night. Governor Gavin Newsom, in a separate statement on Monday, said that, "I'm expanding our ongoing special session with the legislature to provide Los Angeles with billions in funding for firestorm response and recovery efforts. We're moving quickly to help Angelenos who've lost their homes and schools to build back better." Update: resources continue to be deployed across SoCal to fight the Los Angeles wildfires, with additional reinforcements en route as we speak. 15,000 plus personnel, 2,400 plus California National Guard members, 1,460 plus fire engines, 80 plus aircraft, 170 plus water tenders, and 175 plus dozers. In anticipation of higher winds picking up this week, hundreds of firefighting assets are currently prepositioned across Southern California, in Los Angeles, Orange, Ventura, Riverside, San Bernardino, and San Diego counties. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine had, in a videos and written statement on Monday, said that, "Today, I instructed Ukraine's Minister of Internal Affairs and our diplomats to prepare for the possible participation of our rescuers in combating the wildfires in California. The situation there is extremely difficult, and Ukrainians can help Americans save lives. This is currently being coordinated, and we have offered our assistance to the American side through the relevant channels. 150 of our firefighters are already prepared." We had reported that Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner has confirmed that it has received over 24 dead bodies for examination from law enforcement agency following the ongoing wildfire disaster ravaging the capital city of California in the United States of America, U.S. for than a week now, just as the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE stated on its website that over 19,300 people have sustained injuries, 12,300 houses burnt, and more than 40,000 acres of land destroyed. Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner, in a press statement on Sunday, published the 24 reported cases and stated thus: the below information contains cases reported to the County of Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner, DME, by the investigating law enforcement agency and are still under investigation by the department. The DME cannot confirm human remains until after the DME processes them at our facility. California Governor Gavin Newsom says the ongoing Los Angeles wildfire could be the most devastating natural disaster in U.S. history, one that has destroyed thousands of homes and forced 100,000 people to evacuate. Local observers said that the so-called Santa Ana winds, a weather phenomenon, are helping drive the wildfires in Los Angeles and are likely to worsen. Reuters on Monday reported that firefighters raced to contain the frontiers of two Los Angeles wildfires that burned for the sixth straight day, taking advantage of a brief respite in hazardous conditions before high winds were expected to fan the flames anew. People with horses could be seen on videos posted online in the Altadena-Pasadena area trying to escape the Eaton fire in Los Angeles County. The Eaton fire has forced evacuations and temporarily shut down schools in the area. President Joe Biden had convened Vice President Kamala Harris and key officials to receive a virtual briefing on the administration's efforts to suppress the wildfires across Los Angeles, and to discuss how the federal resources he has directed are supporting the state and local response. Media in Los Angeles also reported that Air Tanker 10 USFS, which drops up to 9,400 acres of fire retardant on wildfires, has been deployed as one of the aircraft supporting in the wildfires emergency response, with 4 air bases currently supporting the firefighting effort across Southern California. Mexico team on Sunday arrived in Los Angeles to join the fight against the wildfires. CAL FIRE in a statement said that California has expanded its response efforts, welcoming assistance from Texas, Canada, and Mexico to join neighboring states already providing critical support in battling the Southern California wildfires. These reinforcements are crucial not only for containment efforts but also to provide much-needed relief to the brave firefighters on the front lines. According to California Governor Gavin Newsom, 72 firefighters and emergency personnel have arrived from Mexico to help respond to the Los Angeles fires. Emergencies have no borders, and we are deeply grateful to President Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo for your unwavering support during one of California's greatest times of need. Governor Newsom, the 40th governor of California, in a number of posts on his social media handles since on Saturday, said, as presented verbatim below, here in Mandeville Canyon at the site of tremendous prepositioned resources in anticipation of potentially dangerous winds Wednesday night. I'm making sure counties all across SoCal, not just those with active wildfires, are prepared to respond in case of emergency. Mandatory evacuation orders have been lifted for the Sunset Fire, Kenneth Fire, Hearst Fire, and Lydia Fire, but residents are strongly encouraged to continue heeding evacuation warnings still covering these affected areas. Track the Los Angeles wildfires in real time, seeing the devastation from the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire firsthand. I can't emphasize enough the scope of the damage. We're on the road to recovery. 53 teams are on the ground doing housing inspections to get debris and hazardous waste removed to rebuild these communities. If you've been affected by the fires, visit car.gov/LAFERS to access resources and information, including how to apply for federal assistance. As we prepare for winds to pick up over the next few days, we'll continue to preposition resources throughout Southern California and prepare for future risks posed by burn scars and winter weather. I'm determined to provide Angelenos the tools they need to rebuild faster and stronger. I just signed an executive order to direct fast action to clear wildfire debris across Southern California and prepare for the heightened risk for mudslides in burned areas. The road ahead is going to be difficult, but we're doing all we can to help Los Angeles rebuild and move forward. I'm deploying 1,000 more California National Guard service members to Los Angeles as we battle the unprecedented wildfires in the region. The approximately 2,500 total service members mobilized will continue assisting local public safety efforts in communities devastated by the fires. Goodbye, red tape. Through an executive order, we are making it easier for victims of the SoCal fires to quickly rebuild their homes and lives. We're also extending key price gouging protections to help make rebuilding more affordable. Current containment of Los Angeles wildfires: Palisades Fire, 11% containment across 23,707 acres. Eaton Fire, 27% containment across 14,117 acres. Hearst Fire, 89% containment across 799 acres. Kenneth Fire, Sunset Fire, and Lydia Fire all at 100% containment. Firefighters have worked throughout the day mopping up hotspots, improving the fire's containment lines by 10% since this morning. California has built up an aerial firefighting fleet that is second to none. We're making sure that first responders battling the Los Angeles wildfires are equipped with all they need to help suppress the blazes and save Californians. Stopped by the Zuma Beach Incident Command Center this morning for the latest on the Los Angeles wildfires. We're surging resources as they arrive on scene for 24/7 firefighting operations across Los Angeles County. I'm doubling the number of California National Guard service members in Los Angeles to aid local law enforcement and firefighters to protect our communities. California is incredibly grateful for their bravery and commitment to keeping Angelenos safe as we battle these unprecedented fires, Governor Gavin Newsom stated in series of posts to update the public on the situation of Los Angeles wildfires. California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, stated that 19,300 total emergency responses, 105 wildfires, 40,306 acres burned, 13 fatalities, preliminary pending coroner confirmation 12,300 plus structures destroyed, damage assessments are underway for Palisades and Eaton fires. Animal advocates through their Facebook handle said that, during past fires in Los Angeles over the last 30 years we get no wildlife calls during the fires. People don't start finding injured wildlife until a week or two after they are allowed to return to their homes on the edges of the evacuation area. Sadly, all wildlife that couldn't fly or flee from the fires areas are dead because of smoke inhalation and the intensity of the fires. Generally, our voicemail fills up 2 to 3 times a day with wildlife calls. It's totally quiet now because people aren't outside working, hiking or just plain outside. In the meantime, we are helping to coordinate care for evacuated domestic and farm animals. All of our volunteers are still safe. None are in the evacuation areas. Thank you for your concern.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner has confirmed that it has received over 24 dead bodies for examination from law enforcement agency following the ongoing wildfire disaster ravaging the capital city of California in the United States of America, US, for than a week now. Just as the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, stated on its website that over 19,300 people have sustained injuries, 12,300 houses burnt, and more than 40,000 acres of land destroyed. Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner, in a press statement on Sunday, published the 24 reported cases and stated thus: the below information contains cases reported to the County of Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner, DME, by the investigating law enforcement agency and are still under investigation by the department. The DME cannot confirm human remains until after the DME processes them at our facility. California Governor Gavin Newsom says the ongoing Los Angeles wildfire could be the most devastating natural disaster in U.S. history, one that has destroyed thousands of homes and forced 100,000 people to evacuate. Local observers said that the so-called Santa Ana winds, a weather phenomenon, are helping drive the wildfires in Los Angeles and are likely to worsen. Reuters on Monday reported that firefighters raced to contain the frontiers of two Los Angeles wildfires that burned for the sixth straight day, taking advantage of a brief respite in hazardous conditions before high winds were expected to fan the flames anew. People with horses could be seen on videos posted online in the Altadena-Pasadena area trying to escape the Eaton fire in Los Angeles County. The Eaton fire has forced evacuations and temporarily shut down schools in the area. President Joe Biden had convened Vice President Kamala Harris and key officials to receive a virtual briefing on the administration's efforts to suppress the wildfires across Los Angeles, and to discuss how the federal resources he has directed are supporting the state and local response. Media in Los Angeles also reported that Air Tanker 10 USFS, which drops up to 9,400 acres of fire retardant on wildfires, has been deployed as one of the aircraft supporting in the wildfires emergency response, with 4 air bases currently supporting the firefighting effort across Southern California. Mexico team on Sunday arrived in Los Angeles to join the fight against the wildfires. Cal Fire in a statement said that California has expanded its response efforts, welcoming assistance from Texas, Canada, and Mexico to join neighboring states already providing critical support in battling the Southern California wildfires. These reinforcements are crucial not only for containment efforts but also to provide much-needed relief to the brave firefighters on the front lines. According to California Governor Gavin Newsom, 72 firefighters and emergency personnel have arrived from Mexico to help respond to the Los Angeles fires. Emergencies have no borders, and we are deeply grateful to President Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo for your unwavering support during one of California's greatest times of need. Governor Newsom, the 40th governor of California, in a number of posts on his social media handles since on Saturday, said, as presented verbatim below, "Here in Mandeville Canyon at the site of tremendous prepositioned resources in anticipation of potentially dangerous winds Monday, Wednesday night. I'm making sure counties all across SoCal, not just those with active wildfires, are prepared to respond in case of emergency. Mandatory evacuation orders have been lifted for the Sunset Fire, Kenneth Fire, Hearst Fire, and Lydia Fire, but residents are strongly encouraged to continue heeding evacuation. Warnings still covering these affected areas. Track the Los Angeles wildfires in real time. Seeing the devastation from the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire firsthand, I can't emphasize enough the scope of the damage. We're on the road to recovery. 53 teams are on the ground doing housing inspections to get debris and hazardous waste removed to rebuild these communities. If you've been affected by the fires, visit car.gov/LAFERS to access resources and information, including how to apply for federal assistance. As we prepare for winds to pick up over the next few days, we'll continue to preposition resources throughout Southern California and prepare for future risks posed by burn scars and winter weather. I'm determined to provide Angelenos the tools they need to rebuild faster and stronger. I just signed an executive order to direct fast action to clear wildfire debris across Southern California and prepare for the heightened risk for mudslides in burned areas. The road ahead is going to be difficult, but we're doing all we can to help Los Angeles rebuild and move forward. I'm deploying 1,000 more California National Guard service members to Los Angeles as we battle the unprecedented wildfires in the region. The approximately 2,500 total service members mobilized will continue assisting local public safety efforts in communities devastated by the fires. Goodbye, red tape. Through an executive order, we are making it easier for victims of the SoCal fires to quickly rebuild their homes and lives. We're also extending key price gouging protections to help make rebuilding more affordable. Current containment of Los Angeles wildfires. Palisades fire, 11% containment across 23,707 acres. Eaton fire, 27% containment across 14,117 acres. Hearst fire, 89% containment across 799 acres. Kenneth fire, Sunset fire, and Lydia fire all at 100% containment. Firefighters have worked throughout the day mopping up hotspots, improving the fire's containment lines by 10% since this morning. California has built up an aerial firefighting fleet that is second to none. We're making sure that first responders battling the Los Angeles wildfires are equipped with all they need to help suppress the blazes and save Californians. Stopped by the Zuma Beach Incident Command Center this morning for the latest on the Los Angeles wildfires. We're surging resources as they arrive on scene for 24/7 firefighting operations across Los Angeles County. I'm doubling the number of California National Guard service members in Los Angeles to aid local law enforcement and firefighters to protect our communities. California is incredibly grateful for their bravery and commitment to keeping Angelenos safe as we battle these unprecedented fires, Governor Gavin Newsom stated in series of posts to update the public on the situation of Los Angeles wildfires. California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, stated that 19,300 total emergency responses, 105 wildfires, 40,306 acres burned, 13 fatalities, preliminary pending coroner confirmation 12,300 plus structures destroyed, damage assessments are underway for Palisades and Eaton fires. Animal advocates through their Facebook handle said that, during past fires in Los Angeles over the last 30 years we get no wildlife calls during the fires. People don't start finding injured wildlife until a week or two after they are allowed to return to their homes on the edges of the evacuation area. Sadly, all wildlife that couldn't fly or flee from the fires areas are dead because of smoke inhalation and the intensity of the fires. Generally, our voicemail fills up 2 to 3 times a day with wildlife calls. It's totally quiet now because people aren't outside working, hiking or just plain outside. In the meantime, we are helping to coordinate care for evacuated domestic and farm animals. All of our volunteers are still safe. None are in the evacuation areas. Thank you for your concern.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo early this year advanced and seized the town of Masisi. Same period, the Congolese government sent 172 death row prisoners to executioners with 102 already confirmed executed, while the government kept mum on the third batch of 70 prisoners, including the May 19, 2024 37 coup plotters who were convicted and sentenced to death in September 2024, just as the country Minister of Justice, Constant Mutamba, threatened journalists with death penalty if they relayed the activities of armed group he described as Rwanda Army and its M23 auxiliaries. On Sunday, Al Jazeera reported that the M23 rebels and the Congolese army are still in heavy gun battle in Masisi since the rebel group took control of the town more than a week ago. Al Jazeera report on Sunday contradicted the statement issued 3 days ago by the Congolese Minister of Justice, Constant Mutamba, that the Congolese army and the pro-government rebels have recaptured the town of Masisi from the M23 rebels. On his ex social media handle 3 days ago, the Congo Justice Minister, Constant Mutamba, tweeted in a French language as translated by Google to state that, "Bravo to our Armed Forces of Democratic Republic of Congo, FARDC, and rebel group fighting together with Congo military against M23, Wazalendo, for the recapture of Masisi. The enemy is in disarray. Any political actor, civil society, journalist, religious, who relays the activities of the Rwandan army and its M23 auxiliaries, will now suffer the full force of the law, death penalty. Our territorial integrity is not up for sale." It would be recalled that 37 alleged coup plotters, including 3 Americans, were convicted and sentenced to death in September 2024 by a Kinshasa military court in a trial against the failed coup of May 19, 2024 in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC. 51 people were tried by the military court in Kinshasa, the capital of DRC, with the hearings broadcast on national television. The 3 Americans sentenced to death were convicted for the offenses of criminal association, attack and terrorism, including Marcel Malanga, son of Christian Malanga, the alleged leader of the attempted coup. DRC Army stated that an attempted coup, led by little-known opponent Christian Malanga, was nipped in the bud early May 19, 2024. 6 people, including Christian Malanga himself, were killed. The putschers attacked the residence of Vital Kamerhe, then Deputy Prime Minister, before intruding the Palais de la Nation, where the offices of DRC President Félix Tshisekedi are located. Videos posted online showed the attackers, dressed in military uniforms and displaying the Zaire flag, claimed in the video that they wanted to change things in the management of the republic. Zaire, officially the Republic of Zaire, was the name of the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, from 1971 to 1997. Christian Malanga formed the United Congolese Party in 2010 and advocated for the return of Zaire. In 2017, he created a government in exile in Brussels, Belgium, giving birth to the so-called New Zaire. Marcel Malanga, who was born in Utah, United States, and 2 other Americans, stood trial and they were sentenced to death. M23 rebels, armed group, the government of Democratic Republic of Congo claimed is allegedly supported by Rwanda, have taken control of Masisi, a key town in eastern Congo, exacerbating the region's ongoing humanitarian crisis. The town is estimated to be home to around 40,000 people and it is agricultural and mineral-rich area located in North Kivu province. Local observers said that the capture follows the breakdown of Angola-mediated peace talks between Congolese President Félix Tshisekedi and Rwandan President Paul Kagame in December 2024. While the M23 rebels fighting has built more tension, the Congolese government says it has executed 102 men in the past week, with plans to execute 70 more. Constant Mutamba, the country's Minister of Justice, stated in a statement that 45 were killed in late December 2024 with 57 executed in early January 2025. He said the men, aged 18 to 35, were armed robbers and urban bandits, known locally as Kulunas. Mutamba added that the executions took place at Enjenga prison in northwest Congo. A video posted online showed a flight of 70 more people arrived at Enjenga, but the government is yet to comment on the status of the prisoners. Mutamba, who is overseeing the executions, said the 3rd batch will be executed, so the first 2 have already undergone the measure of execution by the death penalty. While some have welcomed the government's decision to execute the prisoners as a means of restoring order and security in the cities, others are concerned about the risks of abuse and human rights violations. It may be remembered that Congo abolished the death penalty in 1981, but it was reinstated in 2006. The last execution took place in 2003. In March 2024, the Congolese government announced the resumption of capital executions. The reinstated death penalty was intended for military personnel accused of treason, according to close watchers. Amnesty International, while condemning the execution of the prisoners, issued a press statement and stated that President Tshisekedi must halt plans to carry out mass executions. Responding to reports that more than 170 people under sentence of death have been transferred to Enjenga prison for execution in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, Amnesty International's Deputy Regional Director for East and Southern Africa, Sarah Jackson, said. The announcement of these prison transfers is absolutely appalling. We fear imminent mass executions by the authorities amid a lack of reliable information about the status of people sentenced to death. President Felix Tshisekedi must immediately, publicly and unambiguously halt any plans to execute people in Enjenga prison or elsewhere. Parliament should adopt a moratorium on executions, pending full abolition of the death penalty. We fear imminent mass executions by the authorities amid a lack of reliable information about the status of people sentenced to death. Authorities must also stop mass transfers to remote prisons, including Enjenga, where dozens of detainees have previously died of starvation and disease. Any person transferred from their local area must be moved to a facility that can be easily reached by lawyers, relatives and human rights organizations, and all should be informed of their whereabouts. Amnesty International added that, on the 5th of January 2025, DRC's Justice Minister, Constant Mutamba, announced that more than 170 people, allegedly linked to criminal gangs commonly known as Kulana or bandits, had been transferred from the capital Kinshasa to Enjenga prison in northwest DRC for execution. He said those transferred to Enjenga were between 18 and 35 years old and had been involved in urban violence. Authorities have claimed resuming executions would help combat urban gangs, a claim unsupported by any evidence. President Felix Tshisekedi must immediately, publicly and unambiguously halt any plans to execute people in Enjenga prison or elsewhere. Mutamba has previously threatened people suspected of links to criminal gangs with arrest, conviction and the death penalty, even before trial. In March 2024, DRC's government announced it would resume executions following a 2-decade hiatus. Since then, death sentences by military courts have soared. These sentences often follow unfair trials, including against alleged members of criminal gangs and armed groups. Amnesty International opposes the death penalty in all cases. Justice Minister Constant Mutamba also during the week tweeted and stated in on X social media handle that, "I have not given an interview to any media, much less to the app on the operations to combat urban banditry, Zero Kuluna Idobo, that the Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Justice are conducting across the country." The AP dispatch revealed false information. I invite them to correct it in accordance with the law on freedom of the press. Congolese laws provide for the death penalty and the mechanisms for its execution. The Kuluna urban bandits tried and sentenced to death by our courts were transferred to high-security prisons, far from their place of arrest, to serve their sentence in accordance with Congolese laws. This phenomenon of urban gangs led to the overthrow of the Haitian regime, probably due to the absence of consistent measures of repression and dissuasion. We will show findings against the Kuluna who will be arrested and brought before the courts, because they sow death and desolation in society. VOA quoting AP also reported that, the Democratic Republic of Congo on Thursday banned Al Jazeera satellite news network over its interview with the leader of a violent rebel group that has seized territory in the country's east in recent days. Separately, DRC's Justice Minister threatened journalists and others who report on the M23 rebels with the death penalty, though there is no law officially banning media from covering rebel groups. There was no immediate comment from Al Jazeera, a pan-Arab satellite television news network based in Doha, Qatar. According to DRC government spokesperson, Patrick Muyaya, authorities revoked press credentials of Qatar's broadcaster in DRC, saying the network had interviewed the head of a terror organization without proper accreditation. Al Jazeera on Wednesday aired an interview with Bertrand Bisimwa, the head of the M23 rebel movement in the eastern DRC. In the interview, Bisimwa blamed the government in the capital, Kinshasa, for violating an August ceasefire and claimed that M23 is waging an existential war. M23 is the most prominent of more than 100 armed groups active in the mineral-rich area near the DRC border with Rwanda, where more than 1 million people were displaced by fighting last year. A decade ago, the group seized the border city of Goma, and in late 2021 captured broad swaths of territory in eastern DRC. Al Jazeera's interview with Bisimwa was tantamount to an apology for terrorism and totally unacceptable, Muyaya told a news conference, urging journalists not to give the floor to terrorists. Hours earlier, DRC's Justice Minister Constant Mutamba said on the social media platform X that anyone who reports on the activities of the Rwandan army and its M23 auxiliaries will now suffer the full force of the law, death penalty. The Great Lake Eye media also analyzed the significance of the M23 control of Masisi and its consequences to the Congolese army as reported verbatim below. The first weekend of 2025 saw M23 seize 2 more towns in North Kivu province. Masisi Center and Losheberi were taken by the rebels after heavy clashes with the Congolese army coalition. Analysts say that one of the towns means a lot in the escalating armed conflict. Populated with about 40,000 residents, Masisi Center is the capital of Masisi Territory. It is about 80 kilometers north of Goma, the capital of North Kivu. Given its geographical location, Masisi Center has been a supply area for the Congolese army coalition. Their logistics, foodstuffs, and ammunition were sent there before they were distributed to different bases. By capturing Masisi Center, M23 rebels have cut off supplies to the vast Congolese army coalitional forces. They are likely to withdraw as they can't stay in their positions while supplies cannot reach them, said a security analyst and journalist based in Goma. Security analysts predict that the rebels are likely to move forward to Walikale, an area that has been stronghold of the FDLR genocidal militia which Kinshasa treats as a reliable fighting force against M23. Despite support from the Burundian army, SADC troops, Eastern European mercenaries, American private military companies, and FDLR, the Congolese army failed to push back M23 since its resurgence in late 2021.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
United States of America, USA President-elect Donald Trump will be no doubt the first ex-convict to become president in the North America country after Justice John Merchan sentenced him to no jail term and no fine on conditional discharge after the judge had last year found him guilty of falsifying business records and convicted him for criminal felony. Details of the judgment and other events that occurred yesterday at the court while Justice John Merchan was presenting the judgment is published in our audio and video versions of this news report. President-elect Donald Trump was sentenced to unconditional discharge for 34 charges of business fraud related to hush money payment to Stormy Daniels during the 2016 presidential campaign. President-elect Donald Trump was sentenced Friday morning in New York after the Supreme Court refused to block the sentencing, making him the first U.S. president to be convicted and sentenced for a crime to take office. Trump appeared virtually from Mar-a-Lago, according to local media, while others also reported that he appeared virtually for the sentencing at a courtroom in New York. Trump could have been sentenced of up to 4 years in prison but instead was delivered a sentence that does not include penalties like jail term or probation in what's called an unconditional discharge. An unconditional discharge, in legal terms, means that the person is convicted of the charges but is not punished further, such as with jail time, probation, or fines. Essentially, they are released without any conditions attached to their discharge. This can happen in cases where the court determines that the conviction itself serves as enough of a deterrent or punishment, according to local observers in the United States of America. Trump doesn't face any jail time, fines or probation, but his conviction still stands and he will enter office as a convicted felon, one of the observers added. The Source News media reported that George Merchant emphasized that while the office of the presidency grants considerable legal protections, those protections do not diminish the seriousness of the crime. One power they do not provide is the power to erase a jury verdict, Merchant stated, acknowledging the citizenry's role in returning Trump to office despite the conviction. According to CNN, Trump, appearing virtually from Mar-a-Lago, maintained his innocence. "The fact is I'm totally innocent. I did nothing wrong," he said, calling the case a political witch hunt designed to damage his reputation. Trump also criticized Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, claiming the case was unwarranted and harmed New York's judicial system. New York states that unconditional discharge is when a defendant is convicted without punishment such as imprisonment, a fine, or probation supervision. While Trump expressed dissatisfaction with the outcome, his legal team views the sentencing as a step toward appealing the conviction. Despite his felony conviction, the unconditional discharge means Trump will face no further penalties directly tied to the case, allowing him to focus on his political agenda and upcoming cabinet confirmations, the source report ends in quote. President-elect Donald Trump on Friday was sentenced to unconditional discharge just 10 days before his inauguration. The case stemmed from accusations that he falsified business records to conceal a $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels, who claims to have had an affair with Trump in 2006, a claim he denies, calling the prosecution politically motivated. Trump during the sentencing discussed his 2024 election victory, claiming he won the popular vote by millions and millions of votes and secured all 7 swing states, adding, "They've been watching your trial, so they understood it," referring to the voters. He also argued that legal fees were recorded by accountants as legal expenses, not by him personally. Legal fees were put down as legal expenses by accountants. "They weren't put down by me," Trump said. "It's incredible, actually."
Would your client like to be heard?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. This has been a very terrible experience. I think it's been a tremendous setback for New York and the New York court system. This was a case that Alvin Bragg did not want to bring. He thought it was, from what I read and from what I hear, inappropriately handled before he got there. A gentleman from a law firm came in and acted as a district attorney, and that gentleman, from what I heard, was a criminal or almost criminal in what he did. It was very inappropriate. It was somebody involved with my political opponent. Part of the records that we're talking about, they're saying, I just noticed where he said I was falsifying business records. Well, the falsification of business records, as they say it, was calling a legal expense in the books where everybody could see them, a legal expense. In other words, that legal fees or legal expense were put down as legal expense by accountants. They weren't put down by me. They were put down by accountants. I didn't call them construction, concrete work. I didn't call them electrical work. I didn't call them anything. They called a legal fee or a legal expense, and for this, I got indicted. It's incredible, actually. Now, if you look, my attorney alluded to it, the top legal scholars and legal pundits in this country, the ones that are quoted all the time on television, that are making their views felt and highly respected people, have said, everyone, virtually everyone that I know of, I haven't seen any to the contrary, not one, and none of these people are not exactly friends of mine, to put it mildly, but they all said this is a case that should have never been brought. It's an injustice of justice. Very respected Jonathan Turley, Andy McCarthy, Judge David Rifkin, a wonderful man who just passed away, by the way, Greg Jarrett, Ellie Honig from CNN, of all places. CNN said that Paul Ingratiot, Alan Dershowitz, They all said this is not a case that should be brought. It's not, think about it, legal expenses are down as legal expenses, and I get indicted for business records. Everybody should be so accurate. It's been a political witch hunt. It was done to damage my reputation so that I'd lose the election, and obviously that didn't work. And the people of our country got to see this firsthand because they watched the case in your courtroom. They got to see this firsthand, and then they voted, and I won and got the number of votes by far of any Republican candidate in history, and won, as you know, all 7 swing states, won conclusively all 7 swing states, and won the popular vote by millions and millions of votes. And they've been watching your trial, so they understood it. I wasn't allowed to use the lawyer-client privilege or the reliance on counsel. I had a lawyer that made this deal, and he admitted that. And he was also a totally discredited person. We weren't allowed to use the information from the Southern District that totally discredited him. It wasn't allowed to be put in. And that was terrible, unbelievable. And this is a man who's got no standing. He's been disbarred on other matters, unrelated. And he was allowed to talk as though he were George Washington. But he's not George Washington. He shouldn't have been allowed. The Southern District did a book of approximately 28 pages where I've never seen anything like it. They excoriated him. You wouldn't let it be put into evidence. So he was able to testify as a witness, and I think it's a disgrace to the system. I was under a gag order. I'm the first president in history that was under a gag order where I couldn't talk about aspects of the case that are very important. I guess I'm still under, so probably I won't do it now. I assume I'm still under a gag order. But the fact is that I'm totally innocent. I did nothing wrong. They talked about business records, and the business records were extremely accurately counted. I had nothing to do with them. Any of it. That was done by an accountant or a bookkeeper who I think gave very credible testimony and was corroborated by everybody that was asked. And with all that's happening in our country today, with a city that's burning to the ground, one of our largest, most important cities burning to the ground, with wars that are uncontrollably going on, with all of the problems of inflation and attacks on countries and all of the horrible things that are going on, I got indicted over calling a legal expense a legal expense. It was called a legal expense. I just want to say I think it's an embarrassment to New York, and New York has a lot of problems, but this is a great embarrassment. I believe that this and other cases that were brought, as you know, the DOJ is very much involved in this case. It's because that's the political opponent they're talking about. The DOJ is very involved. You have a gentleman sitting right there from the DOJ who was from the DOJ's office. He was also involved with the New York State Attorney General's case. And he went from there to here. He went around and did what he had to do. He got them to move on me. But in the meantime, I won the election in a massive landslide. And the people of this country understand what's gone on. This has been a weaponization of government. They call it lawfare. Never happened to any extent like this, but never happened in our country before. And I'd just like to explain that I was treated very, very unfairly. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump, you appear before this court today to conclude this criminal proceeding by the imposition of sentence. Although I have taken the unusual step of informing you in advance of my inclinations, before imposing sentence, I believe it is important for you, as well as those observing these proceedings, to understand my reasoning for the sentence I am about to impose. The imposition of sentence is one of the most difficult and significant decisions that any criminal court judge is called upon to make. Our legislature sets the parameters for an authorized sentence, but it is a judge that must decide what constitutes a just conclusion to a verdict of guilty. The court is vested with broad discretion in determining what sources or evidence it may consider to arrive at an appropriate sentence. In doing so, the court must consider the facts of the case along with any aggravating or mitigating circumstances. In my time on the bench, I've been called upon to grapple with this weighty responsibility for countless defendants who have been found guilty after trial for an assortment of offenses, ranging from nonviolent Class E felonies to the most heinous of crimes, including homicides, sex trafficking, and child sexual abuse. The task is always difficult and deserving of careful consideration, whether the sentence be an unconditional discharge or incarceration of 25 years to life. However, never before has this court been presented with such a unique and remarkable set of circumstances. Indeed, it can be viewed fairly that this has been a truly extraordinary case. There was unprecedented media attention, public interest, and heightened security involving various agencies. And yet, the trial was a bit of a paradox because once the courtroom doors were closed, the trial itself was no more special, unique, or extraordinary than the other 32 criminal trials that took place in this courthouse at the same exact time. Jury selection was conducted, the same rules of evidence were followed, opening statements were made, witnesses called and cross-examined, evidence presented, summations delivered. The same burden of proof was applied, and a jury made up of ordinary citizens delivered a verdict. And it was all conducted pursuant to the rules of procedure and guided by the law. Of course, part of what made it feel somewhat ordinary was the outstanding work, preparation, and professionalism of the clerks, court officers, court reporters, security personnel, and the entire staff of this building who did their jobs as they would with any other criminal trial. So while one can argue that the trial itself was in many respects somewhat ordinary, the same cannot be said about the circumstances surrounding this sentencing. And that is because of the office you once occupied and which you will soon occupy again. To be sure, it is the legal protections afforded to the office of the President of the United States that are extraordinary, not the occupant of the office. The legal protections, especially within the context of a criminal prosecution, afforded to the office of the President have been laid out by our founders, the Constitution, and most recently interpreted by the United States Supreme Court in the matter of Trump versus the United States, which was decided on July 1st, 2024. As with every other defendant in your position, it is my obligation to consider any and all aggravating and mitigating factors to inform my decision. Some of those aggravating factors have already been articulated in my Standoff ruling at the start of this trial and by my recent written decisions on December 16th and January 3rd. Thus, they need not be repeated at this time. However, the considerable, indeed, extraordinary legal protections afforded by the office of the Chief Executive is a factor that overrides all others. To be clear, the protections afforded the office of the President are not a mitigating factor. They do not reduce the seriousness of the crime or justify its commission in any way. The protections are, however, a legal mandate which, pursuant to the rule of law, this court must respect and follow. However, despite the extraordinary breadth of those protections, one power they do not provide is the power to erase a jury verdict. It is clear from legal precedent, which until July 1st was scarce, that Donald Trump, the ordinary citizen, Donald Trump, the criminal defendant, would not be entitled to such considerable protections. I'm referring to protections that extend well beyond those afforded the average defendant who winds their way through the criminal justice system each day. No, ordinary citizens do not receive those legal protections. It is the office of the President that bestows those far-reaching protections to the office holder. And it was the citizenry of this nation that recently decided that you should once again receive the benefits of those protections, which include, among other things, the Supremacy Clause and presidential immunity. It is through that lens and that reality that this court must determine a lawful sentence. After careful analysis, in obedience to governing mandates, and pursuant to the rule of law, this court has determined that the only lawful sentence that permits entry of a judgment of conviction without encroaching upon the highest office in the land is an unconditional discharge, which the New York State Legislature has determined is a lawful and permissible sentence for the crime of falsifying business records in the first degree. Therefore, at this time, I impose that sentence to cover all 34 counts. Sir, I wish you Godspeed as you assume your second term in office. Thank you.
Bring in you the news in a more digital way.
Chief Ernest Azudelu Obiejesi, the founder of Obi Jackson Foundation, on Friday led other dignitaries to hold mass funeral service of interdenominational church servants to pay last respect to between 20 and 22 unofficially stated numbers of people that died in a stampede during the foundation Christmas rice and other gift items sharing event on December 21, 2024 at Okija community in the Ihiala local government area of Anambra State. The mass funeral service, where some families were in attendance with the portrait photographs of their deceased loved ones, was held at St. Mary's Field, Okija, with local media reporting that the shops and markets, especially the major markets in the area, were under lock and key in honor of the dead victims. Eze Nduka Duke, National Publicity Secretary of Okija Progressive Union, had requested all attendees to put on black clothes in honor of the stampede victims in a mass burial announcement he titled, Okija Mourns. Anambra Broadcasting Service, ABS, reported that businesses across Okija in Ihiala local government area came to a standstill today as the community held an interdenominational funeral service to honor victims of Okija stampede. The incident, which occurred on Saturday the 21st of December 2024 during a distribution of Christmas palliative by Obi Jackson Foundation, claimed 22 lives and left many injured, plunging the town into mourning. The traditional ruler of Okija, Igwe Nnamdi Okezi, the founder of Obi Jackson Foundation, Chief Ernest Obiejesi, the chairman, Dozie Group of Company Chief Chukwudozia Nwankwo, Pioneer Anglican Bishop of Ihiala Diocese, Right Reverend Ralph Okafor, retired, were among the attendees. Addressing the crowd, Chief Obiejesi expressed deep concern over the incident, assuring the community that comprehensive steps will be taken to prevent future occurrences. After the funeral service, families who were yet to bury their loved ones proceeded to lay their bodies to rest. Also, Punch newspaper reported that no fewer than 21 people, mostly women and children, reportedly lost their lives during the tragic incident that occurred on December 21, 2024, during the palliative distribution being donated by a notable member of the community, Chief Ernest Azudelu Obiejesi, through his foundation, Obi Jackson Foundation. The interdenominational burial service for the victims held at St. Mary's Field, Okija, on Friday, had families of the victims, survivors, community members, and other notable personalities of the community in attendance in the low-key event. The event was organized by Obi Jackson Foundation, alongside the Royal Palace of the Okija community. During the service, the Very Reverend Donald Chukwudolu, who anchored his lesson from the Book of Revelation 21, 1-8, asked the Almighty God to console everybody who lost their loved ones and prayed that such would not occur again in the community. Chukwudolu said, "We ask God to wipe away every tear and console the families of the deceased. We pray such an accident will not occur in Okija again. Okija mourns, Anambra mourns, and Nigeria mourns. Nobody would hear such tragic news and not feel sober. Only the Lord can console those who lost their loved ones, and we pray the Lord will continue to comfort the families of the victims." During his sermon, the Bishop of Ihiola Diocese, Anglican Communion, Ralph Okafor, who read from the book of Psalms 23, urged the families of the victims to move and continue to look to God for consolation, saying, "Past is past, we must move on." While mourning the victims, the founder of the Obi Jackson Foundation, Chief Ernest Azubialu Obiejesi, thanked the traditional ruler of the community and other members of the community for their support and show of love. Azubialu Obiejesi said, "Today, we gather here with heavy hearts to honor the memory of those we lost in the tragedy that happened on December 21st in the community. As the founder of the Obi Jackson Foundation, sincerely expressed my deepest condolences to the families of the victims and the entire Okija community for the incident. The foundation remains steadfast in its resolve to human development. This incident has strengthened our resolve to ensure that such tragedy will not occur again. Let this tragedy bring us closer and make us stronger as a community and have a resolve to forge ahead. This kind of tragedy can deter you from engaging in service, but we as a foundation are going to continue to ensure that we do everything that God has empowered us to do to ensure that Okija never suffers this kind of calamity again. We are humbled and reminded of the importance of doing good. We are taking decisive actions, and our resolve to serve the Okija people will remain steadfast. Together, we will rebuild. Together, we will make Okija a safer place where you will always eat and remember your brothers and sisters. The Obi Jackson Foundation will continue to do good. As the founder of the foundation, we have done this for 15 years, and I assure you, we will continue to bring succor and love to Okija. May all those families that lost their loved ones continue to relate, and we will support them with all the things they deserve. In his speech, the traditional ruler of the community, Emeka Okezi, urged the foundation to continue in its philanthropic gestures, as these have impacted positively on the community and the lives of the people. Okezi urged Azubialu Obiejesi to continue in his community service and impact on lives, and not to be discouraged by the unfortunate incident. The chairman of Dozie Group of Companies, Chief Daniel Chukuduzia, consoled the victims and donated a sum of 10 million naira to them. Some of the victims, who spoke at the event, expressed sadness over what happened while calling on the Almighty God to grant the souls of the deceased eternal rest. Punch newspaper report ends in quote.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Suspected Boko Haram terrorists attempted to break into Chad presidential palace on Wednesday night after China Foreign Minister Wang Yi had met with President Mahamat Idris Deby Itno and left for Nigeria to meet with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in continuation of his Africa tour, which he started the visit with Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, where he had previously met with Vice President Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah at the Old State House. Chadian government dismissed claims that the attackers were terrorists, but failed to state the identities of the 24 armed men widely believed to be members of the Boko Haram sect that stormed the presidential palace, shooting dead 2 security officers and thus sparked a heavy gunfiring by the presidential guards, who shot dead 18 out of the 24 suspects and arrested others who sustained injuries. Hours before the shooting began, Wang had met with President Mahamat Idris Deby and other senior officials. Deby was inside the complex during the attack, according to government spokesperson Abderrahman Kolamala. Chad says military foiled destabilization attempt. Local media also reported that the attack on the presidential palace occurred same Wednesday. About 70 French soldiers and 8 tons of cargo have left N'Djamena, in line with the end of Chad's military relationship with France, which both governments have made some exchange words in recent days. Chadian Prime Minister Alain Maye Halena had said, The deadline for the final withdrawal of French forces from our territory is set for January 31, 2025. This period is neither negotiable nor modifiable. Authorities said 6 attackers and 3 security personnel sustained injuries. Residents near the compound reported hearing heavy gunfire, but the government has assured the public that the situation is under control, with soldiers protecting the president. Chad's foreign minister and government spokesperson, Abderrahmane Kolamala, assured the public that the situation was under control. The attempt to destabilize has been thwarted, Kolamala said in a video statement, flanked by soldiers. A security source, according to local media, said the attackers were members of the Boko Haram jihadist group, but Kolamala later said they were probably not terrorists, describing them as drunken Nicholas, a reference to a French comic featuring hapless crooks. He said they attacked 4 guards before entering the presidential complex, where they were easily overpowered, adding the surviving assailants were completely drugged. The attack occurred about a week after the African nation held parliamentary elections that were supposed to help restore democracy, but the main opposition party boycotted the polls. Results have not yet been announced, and analysts have said they expect the election to help Déby Itno consolidate his grip on power. Déby Itno seized power as a military ruler after his father, who spent 3 decades leading the country, was killed fighting rebels in 2021. Déby Itno won a presidential election last year that international observers have said was not credible. Individuals in 3 vehicles attacked the military camps around the president's office, but the army neutralized them, a source said, speaking on condition of anonymity. Earlier, residents in the area described hearing loud volleys of gunshots. I am stuck at Place des Nations in front of the president's office, because I hear intense gunfire and military vehicles coming from all directions, said one of the residents, Abbas Mahamat Said, who had been riding his motorcycle. President Mahamat Idris Déby came into power after rebels killed his father, long-standing President Idris Déby, as he was visiting troops fighting militias in the north of the country in 2021. The older Déby had ruled Chad, which is rich in oil resources but one of the poorest countries in Africa, since a coup in the early 1990s. Reuters, quoting the criminal prosecutor over the failed attack, reported that failed attack on Chad's presidential compound overnight was carried out by a group of 24 armed, ill-intentioned individuals, who were neutralized by security forces, the public prosecutor said on Thursday, though details of the incident remained unclear. The attack comes at a delicate time for Chad, which recently scrapped a defense cooperation pact with long-term partner France that made it a key Western ally in the fight against Islamist militants in West and Central Africa's Sahel region. The region has been riven by insurgencies, including by groups linked to Islamic State, Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram, for more than a decade. Military authorities in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, which shares a border with Chad, have recently turned their backs on the West in favor of Russian military support. Chad's public prosecutor said 24 armed assailants drove up to the presidential palace on Wednesday evening, felled a breakdown and attacked security guards manning the gate, killing 2 and lightly wounded 5 others as they tried to enter the compound. Security forces killed 18 of the assailants and wounded 6, who were taken to hospital, the prosecutor said. Investigations have been launched to identify all instigators and accomplices, the prosecutor said in a statement. In an earlier interview on national television, government spokesperson Abderrahmane Kolamala said the assailants, who seemed intoxicated and disorganized, were only armed with knives and machetes. Security sources and researchers said there was still a lot of confusion surrounding the incident, which sparked speculation it could be linked to jihadist groups, ethnic tensions, or discontent over the fallout of a war in neighboring Sudan. It is too early to draw conclusions over exactly what happened, a security source in N'Djamena said. Kolemola said it was, probably not, a terrorist act. Reuters report ends in quote.
Bring in the news in a more digital way.
There are indications that the criminal investigators in South Korea have mobilized over 2,000 police to wear down or overcome the men of the Presidential Security Service, PSS, currently protecting the country's impeached president, Yoon Suk Yeol, from being arrested after court reissued order of arrest on Tuesday when the previous court order expired, with failed attempt by the criminal investigators to carry out the arrest order last week due to standoff mounted by heavily armed PSS. Local media on Wednesday reported that the South Korea's Presidential Security Service, an agency assigned to protect the president, prides itself on being the last bastion for a safe and stable state administration, is now at the heart of South Korea's biggest political mess in decades, acting as a final line of defense to prevent criminal investigators from detaining President Yoon Suk Yeol. The media reported that the impeached South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol's residence has been turned into a fortress, with layers of barbed wire and vehicle blockades protecting the elusive leader, as at on Wednesday. It was gathered that the 64-year-old former prosecutor was at home when investigators carried out their failed attempt to arrest him last week and was still there until early this week, the Yonhap news agency, citing police, reported on Wednesday. The criminal investigators said they are now unsure of his whereabouts, as Yoon keeps them guessing behind a wall of protection, even though a new warrant cleared the way for renewed efforts to arrest him. I am considering various possibilities, Corruption Investigation Office, CIO, Chief Oh Dong-woon said on Tuesday in response to a lawmaker who asked if Yoon had already fled. South Korea's Presidential Security Service was seen fortifying the hillside villa where President Yoon Suk Yeol is believed to be, according to media reporters on ground monitoring the situation. Reuters on Wednesday stated that various scenarios reported in local media included mobilizing police special tactical units and heavy equipment to push through the barricades, followed by more than 2,000 police to drag out presidential guards, taking as long as 3 days if necessary to wear down presidential security agents. Adding, protesters both supporting and opposing the embattled Yoon have continued to brave freezing temperatures to stage rallies on the streets around the presidential compound on Wednesday after a court reissued a warrant to arrest Yoon earlier on Tuesday. The Presidential Security Service, PSS, was seen this week fortifying the compound with barbed wire and barricades, using buses to block access to the hillside villa where Yoon is believed to be, having defied summons to appear for questioning. South Korea impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol is facing a new and potentially more robust attempt to arrest him for insurrection after a top investigator vowed to do whatever it takes to break a security blockade and take in the impeached leader. He also faces an impeachment trial in the Constitutional Court. One of Yoon's lawyers, in a statement on Wednesday, said, the president could not accept the execution of the arrest warrant because it was issued by a court in the wrong jurisdiction and the CIO had no authority to investigate the incumbent leader. Yoon Suk Yeol, the lawyer, also denied suggestions by some members of parliament that Yoon had fled the official residence, saying he had met the president there on Tuesday. He said they were malicious rumors intended to slander Yoon. On Tuesday, Oh Dong-woon, head of the Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials, CIO, which is leading the investigation into Yoon, apologized for failing to arrest the president last week after a 6-hour standoff with hundreds of PSS agents and military guards at the compound. We'll do our best to accomplish our goal by thoroughly preparing, this time with great determination that the second warrant execution will be the last, or said during the Parliament Committee meeting. At the Parliament Committee meeting, or refused to specify how many days the court had given before the new arrest warrant expired, citing a need to keep plans for the new attempt internal. Yoon's home, a former foreign ministry residence, is nestled in Hanam-dong, an affluent Seoul neighborhood along the Han River renowned for its luxurious homes, some of the country's most expensive. It is also popular with K-pop stars, reportedly including members of the megagroup BTS, and hosts many foreign embassies. Situated in Yongsan District, which stationed colonial troops during Japanese rule and American troops after World War II, it now plays host to Yoon's own legion, according to AFP.
Bring in you the news in a more digital way.
Nigeria Police Force has paraded some cybercrime suspects, hinting that the force recovered over 8.8 billion naira from cybercriminals in 2024 and the stolen funds were restituted to the victims of crime. The force spokesperson, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, stated this on Tuesday in Abuja alongside with officers in charge of the Nigeria Police Force National Cybercrime Center, NPF-NCCC. Olumuyiwa had also paraded the suspected killer of CSP Hassan Jega, the DPO Agbaho Division, Delta State, who was killed on the 14th of October 2024 during gun battle with notorious armed robbers. Details of the press releases reads below as stated by the Force Public Relations Officer, Olumuyiwa Adejobi. In the relentless efforts of the Nigeria Police Force to tackle every form of crime in all spheres, the force has recorded an outstanding achievement for the year 2024 in retrospect, particularly in the area of combating cybercrime. In the year 2024, the Nigeria Police Force National Cybercrime Center, NPF-NCCC, successfully recovered a staggering 8,821,001,881 naira and 80 kobos, 8,821,001,881 naira, 80 kobo, 115,237.91 USDT, and $84,000. These significant amounts have been restituted to the victims of cybercrime, reaffirming the commitment of the force to protecting citizens and ensuring justice for those affected by fraudulent activities. Similarly, in the past year, the cybercrime unit has actively engaged in strategic operations, resulting in the arrests and prosecutions of over 751 individuals involved in cybercrime. The unit has successfully recovered a total of 685 devices that were used in these nefarious activities, which include 467 mobile phones, 137 laptops and computers, 46 routers, 4 servers, 1 drone, and 4 Starlink devices. Additionally, the operations led to the confiscation of 16 houses, 39 plots of land, 14 land documents, and 26 vehicles, further dismantling the infrastructure supporting cybercriminal activities. In recognition of its outstanding performance and dedication, the NPF-NCCC has been awarded the title of the Best Cybercrime Unit in Africa for 2024 by the Interpol Cybercrime Directorate based in Singapore, securing the top position among 54 participating African countries. These achievements reflect the dedication of the Nigeria Police Force to fighting cybercrime and enhancing the safety of citizens in the digital space. In furtherance to efforts towards keeping the cyberspace safe, operatives of the NPF-NCCC have apprehended 4 suspects identified as Douglas Victor, Mel, Ebo Efe Martins, Mel, Lucky Adesuloye, Mel, and Ndifreke Joseph Modi, Mel, for various cyber-related offenses. The Nigeria Police remains committed towards combating cyber threats, staying steps ahead of cybercriminals, thereby enhancing the nation's overall cybersecurity framework and protecting the welfare of its citizens in the digital era. Citizens are advised to remain vigilant and exercise caution when sharing sensitive data or interacting with unfamiliar online entities. Cultivating a culture of cyber awareness and promoting responsible online behavior are essential components in fortifying the defenses against cyber threats. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Police Force, as part of its efforts to ensure the safety and security of all Nigerians by employing proactive, intelligence-driven strategies to combat crime, have evolved improved strategies to combat crimes and criminality. These efforts have led to the disruption of criminal networks and a notable decrease in incidents of organized and violent crime, enhancing the overall security situation in the country. On the 1st of November 2024, operatives of the FIDIAT arrested one Ogaga Dixon, male, 35 years, a member of a notorious armed robbery syndicate responsible for the death of CSP Hassan Jaga, the DPO Agbao Division, Delta State, who was killed on the 14th of October 2024 during a fierce gun battle between a team of police officers led by the deceased DPO and the assailants, after the team of policemen had foiled one of their robbery operations. The operatives had earlier stormed the gang's den and engaged them in a fierce gun duel leading to the neutralization of 4 of the gang members. Upon Ogaga's arrest, the police recovered one AK-47 rifle, one English pistol, one locally made pistol, ammunition of various calibers and 6 exotic vehicles. Similarly, police operatives apprehended a child trafficking syndicate led by one Pastor Dio Bernard, male, of End Time Army Ministry, Bukuru, Plateau State on the 2nd of December 2024. The operation led to the rescue of 5 children between the ages of 2 to 4, abducted from various homes in Jos, Plateau State, and the arrest of other members of the syndicate identified as Rita Amoeze, female, Victoria Ugu, female, Nanman Pontel, female, and Peter Okoani, male. Upon interrogation, the principal suspect confessed to having abducted and sold 13 children at varying prices, all of whom have been recovered by the police and reunited with their families through the Plateau State Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development. Furthermore, in line with the IGP's directive to all police detectives to mop up every illicit arms and ammunition in circulation, operatives of the FIDIAT have successfully recovered 14 AK-47 rifles. These operations exemplify the unwavering resolve of the Nigeria Police Force and highlight the effectiveness of our efforts to combat crime and enhance national security.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Newly sworn in President of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama may have mistakenly introduced Nigeria President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the President of the Federal Republic of Ghana during his inaugural address after he was sworn into office at the Independence Square in Accra, the capital of the West Africa country. President Mahama, during acknowledgement of guests before he began his inaugural speech, said, "Your Excellency, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the President of the Federal Republic of Ghana and the special guest of honor for this occasion." Local media reported that several African leaders, including those from military-led Burkina Faso and Niger, were in Ghana's capital, Accra, Tuesday, for the inauguration and return of President John Dramani Mahama. The event was attended by several world leaders, including the Economic Community of West Africa States, ECOWAS Chairman, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Mahama had led Ghana from 2012-2016, returned to office after he won in the nation's 2024 general elections. John Dramani Mahama was sworn in by the Chief Justice, Gertrude Araba Esabasaki Tokonu, as President of the Republic of Ghana. Mahama succeeds Nana Akufo-Addo, who took over from him in 2017. This marks Mahama's return to the presidency after 7 years, following his victory in Ghana's December elections. Nana Jane Opoku Agyemang made history as the first female vice president of Ghana. Mahama and Opoku Agyemang, both candidates of the National Democratic Congress, won the election with Mahama securing 50% of the votes. He polled 6.3 million votes, defeating his closest rival, Mahamudu Bawumia of the ruling New Patriotic Party, by a margin of 1.7 million votes. Acknowledging his defeat, Bawumia quickly considered and addressed the nation, saying, "The people of Ghana have spoken. The people have voted for change at this time, and we respect it with all humility." On his X account, Mahama confirmed receiving a congratulatory phone call from Bawumia. Mahama, 66, of the National Democratic Congress (NDC) party, beat Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia of the ruling New Patriotic Party (NPP). Nigeria President and the special guest of honor during the inauguration ceremony, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while speaking at the occasion, said that President Mahama will bring positive change to Ghana. In a news release made available by the Nigeria President's spokesperson, Bayo Onanuga, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu remarked as presented below. It is always good when a friend and brother can visit the home of a close neighbor to celebrate his success and progress with him. We celebrate African democracy today as Ghana and her beloved people mark the transition from one democratic government to another. This moment does more than symbolize another milestone in the evolution of Ghanaian democratic society. It lays to bear the question of whether Ghana and Africa are capable of democratic and productive endeavors. Ghana has answered that question resoundingly. It is time that Africa's critics stop forgetting the strides your nation, Nigeria and others have made by continuing to ask us to prove ourselves. We have nothing to prove to anyone except ourselves. We have found the critical path to our success. We shall lift our nations out of poverty and build a resilient economy at our own pace. Today, I am here not only as the President of Nigeria but also as an African in resolute support for Ghana and her people. This moment is a source of pride and honor for you, the entire continent, and its diaspora. The sun is out, and the sky says daylight, but I see today a black star rising high in the African sky. This black star shines over this nation, and its rays spread across this continent with a sense of shared history, hope, compassion, unity, and devotion to our common welfare. While others may seek to demean Africa and keep brother pitted against brother, that shining star reminds us of who we are. Better yet, it reminds us of who we can be. That star means that we shall always strive to work together. Even when we disagree, we shall dialogue and discuss until we reach an agreement. Never shall we harm others and never allow any outsider to hurt us or disrupt the unity for which so many of our heroes gave their sweat, blood, and very lives to achieve. The spirit of Ghana's first president, Osagefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, is here today, lifting that star higher and higher. Just as Ghana draws inspiration and the well of strength from Kwame Nkrumah and many of its past leaders, Nigeria similarly draws inspiration from its founding leaders who not only fought for her independence but also cherished the close relationship between our two nations. May we always walk in the way and the spirit of these enlightened leaders. Ghana is in harmony with that spirit, and President John Mahama's inauguration today reflects that. Your new president is a man of patriotic vision and substance. He loves his nation and its people to the core. He believes that your nation has a mission and intends for you all to fulfill it. No one can ask more of a leader than that. President John Mahama and I share a deep friendship. My dear brother, I am here to work with you. You know you can count on Nigerians' support and goodwill whenever needed. We are your brothers and sisters. The bond is strong and cannot be broken. May your administration be a profound success and progress for you, Ghanaians, and our entire region. I am confident that the new government, under the leadership of President John Mahama, will work with Nigeria to strengthen this powerful bond, leading to greater shared prosperity for our people. I have no doubt that your administration will bring about positive change and progress. Your ascension to power should also mark a new and invigorated momentum in pursuing sub-regional integration and progress. With laser focus, we can tackle our people's most pressing concerns: poverty, youth unemployment, instability, insurgency, and many other problems hampering our desired progress. May Ghana's democracy continue to grow stronger. May progress and prosperity be your portion. Let us all look forward to a future filled with hope, opportunity, and prosperity, said President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Honorable members of Parliament, Her Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, Your Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of the Federal Republic of Ghana, and special guest of honor for this occasion, Your Excellencies, Presidents, Heads of Government and Development Agencies, Your Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and former Presidents, Your Excellency Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters.
Officers who are on radio, bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Men of the Nigeria Police Force have arrested a male and female bomb victims in connection with the bomb explosion that occurred on Monday at Sangagia Sani Uthman Islamia School at Kuchibui Village in Buari Area Council of Nigeria Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, after 3 suspects from Katsina State brought the improvised explosive device, IED, to the school owner and thus tampered with it, causing deaths and injuries. FCT Police Command, in a press statement on Monday by its spokesperson, Josephine Ade, said 2 out of the 3 men from Katsina State died in the process of the bomb explosion, and the surviving suspect and another female suspect that sustained injuries from the bomb explosion have been hospitalized under strict police custody. The Police Command press release reads in quote thus: "The FCT Police Command regrets to inform the public of a tragic incident involving a suspected bomb explosion that occurred on January 6, 2025, at approximately 11 a.m. at the Sangagia Sani Uthman Islamia School, located in Kuchibui Village, Basin area of the FCT. Upon receiving a distress call from the Saki of Kuchibui, a team of police operatives, including the Command's Explosive Ordnance Disposal (EOD) team and the area commander of Kubwa, swiftly mobilized to the scene. The area was immediately cordoned off to protect residents and facilitate a thorough investigation. During the rescue operation, victims were promptly evacuated and rushed to the hospital for medical attention. Preliminary investigations revealed that 3 men from Katsina had visited the owner of the Islamic school, Malam Adamu Ashimu. The 3 visitors are suspected of having brought the explosive device with them. Tragically, 2 of the men died in the explosion while tampering with the improvised explosive device, IED, on the school veranda, while the 3rd man and a female trader sustained severe injuries and are currently receiving treatment under police guard. The FCT bomb squad has confirmed that it was an IED explosion, as remnants of the device have been recovered. Malam Adamu Ashimu, the owner of the school, has been taken into custody for questioning, and further findings will be communicated in due course. The Commissioner of Police, FCT, CP Olatunji Desu, urges members of the public to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity, behavior, or items that may resemble improvised explosive devices to the police via our emergency numbers 0806 158 1938, 0803 200 3913, 0802 894 0883, 0705 733 7653, crew 0810 731 4192, and PCB 0902 222 2352. Safety advice for residents of FCT. 1. Stay alert. Be aware of your surroundings and report any unusual behavior or items to the authorities. 2. Do not touch suspicious objects. If you encounter any suspicious items, do not touch or attempt to move them. Instead, call the police immediately. 3. Emergency numbers. Keep emergency contact numbers handy and ensure your family members are aware of them. 4. Community vigilance. Collaborate with your neighbors to maintain a safe environment. SP Josephine Ade, Police Public Relations Officer, FCT Command stated in the press release on Monday. The FCT Police Command had in a New Year press statement stated that Abuja, as the political and business hub of Nigeria, attracts diverse individuals, both with legitimate and illegitimate intentions. Announcing its achievements for the year 2024 and the command readiness to battle crimes in the territory in 2025, the police stated in quote thus, "The Federal Capital Territory, FCT, located at the heart of the Federation and bordered by Niger, Kaduna, Kogi, and Nasarawa states, serves as the political and business hub of Nigeria. Its unique position attracts diverse individuals, including those with both legitimate and illegitimate intentions." At the start of 2024, the FCT faced significant security challenges across its 6 area councils, including banditry, kidnapping, armed robbery, car theft, one chance, robbery, illegal possession and use of firearms, homicides, and other violent crimes. In alignment with the directives of the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Adeolu Egbitokun, the FCT Police Command conducted a thorough analysis of the security situation, carried out crime mapping, identified crime hotspots, and implemented an action plan with the following strategies. Robust community policing engagements, sustained targeted clearance operations, intelligence-led and visibility policing, collaboration with sister security agencies, strategic communication, public enlightenment, and sensitization. Achievements: January-December 2024, during the year under review, a total of 1,426 cases were reported, leading to the arrest of 1,077 suspects. Arrests: kidnapping, 104 cases reported, 216 suspects arrested. Armed robbery, 268 cases reported, 132 suspects arrested. One chance, robbery, 263 cases reported, 71 suspects arrested. Cybercrime, 32 cases reported, 15 suspects arrested. Homicide, 68 cases reported, 78 suspects arrested. Burglary, 73 cases reported, 20 suspects arrested. Fraud, 385 cases reported, 422 suspects arrested. Cultism, 38 cases reported, 59 suspects arrested. Police misconduct, 68 cases reported to the Command's Complaint Response Unit, CRU. Car theft, 127 cases reported, 64 suspects arrested. Rescues, kidnapping victims rescued, 68. One chance, robbery victims rescued, 19. Cases charged to court and convictions, kidnapping, 38 suspects charged, 21 convicted. One chance, robbery, 16 suspects charged, 11 convicted. Homicide, 32 suspects charged, 8 convicted. Fraud, 178 suspects charged, 58 convicted. Cultism, 19 suspects charged, 11 convicted. Burglary, 26 suspects charged, 8 convicted. Police misconduct, 58 suspects charged, no convictions recorded. Car theft, 21 suspects charged, 11 convicted. Recoveries, firearms, 376, including 13 AK-47 magazines and 187 rounds of live ammunition. Cash recovered, 36,850,000 nairas from kidnapping suspects. 68,552,000 nairas from armed robbery suspects. 19,590,000 nairas from burglary cases. 285 million nairas from fraud cases. Grand total, 409,992,000 nairas. Vehicles recovered, 73 from car theft cases, 24 from one-chance robbery cases, 2 from cultism cases. From the above statistics, a 15.1% reduction in crime incidents within the FCT was recorded between 2023 and 2024. Police officers who died in the line of duty, active service, 140 officers. Plans for 2025. Building on the successes of 2024, the command will intensify community policing engagements, intelligence-led policing strategies, targeted clearance operations, public enlightenment initiatives to address the evolving security demands of the FCT. Appreciation. The command extends its heartfelt gratitude to the Honorable Minister of the FCT, residents, sister security agencies, the media, members of the Police Community Relations Committee, PCRC, civil society organizations, CSOs, vigilante groups, and community policing stakeholders for their unwavering support and cooperation, the FCT command stated.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
President Joe Biden and his wife, Jill, on Monday traveled to New Orleans to attend the interfaith prayer service for peace and healing with the families of 14 persons that were killed and 35 others injured on New Year Day truck-driving terror attack at French Quarters along Bourbon Street when the victims were celebrating the season around 3 a.m. local time. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI New Orleans Division, in a press statement few hours ago, called on anyone who may have information on the car terror suspect, Shamsuddin Jabbar, while the FBI updated the general public with a photo illustrations of Jabbar's movements leading up to the Bourbon Street terrorist attack. We are asking if anyone has information to help the investigation. Call 1800-CALB, FBI stated. Jill and I traveled to New Orleans to stand with a community defined by strength and resilience. To grieve, to pray, and let them know that America stands with them, and mourns with them, Joe Biden stated in a social media statement. It was also gathered that one of the survivors of the attack was a physically challenged person on a motorized wheelchair. In a statement, Todd Terrell stated that, yesterday, our founder and President Todd Terrell visited with NOLA terrorist attack victim Jeremy Sensky and his family at University Medical Center in New Orleans. Jeremy is a paraplegic and was on Bourbon Street when the terrorists struck him with a speeding truck, crushing his motorized wheelchair. United Cajun Navy and our partners worked to get Jeremy a new motorized wheelchair, as well as assist the family with expenses as they were visiting from Pennsylvania. Our UC and chaplain Tony Dickey has also been on hand for days counseling victims' families on navigating the difficult process of obtaining public assistance. We are also distributing comfort cups, which are weighted, therapeutic stuffed bears that have been given to the families who have experienced traumatic events. We also brought comfort cups following the Maui fires and Hurricane Helene devastation in Florida and North Carolina. Pray for Jeremy and the other victims of this senseless terrorist act. FBI, New Orleans, alongside our federal, state, and local partners, opened a Family Assistance Center, FAC, to provide services and care to the victims of the Bourbon Street terrorist attack, according to the press release by FBI on Monday, stating that the FAC offers crisis assistance including mental health services, financial and lodging assistance, and other resources. Anyone present during the attack can also retrieve personal effects or items left behind. This center is for victims, their family members, and anyone present at the Bourbon Street attack, even if they were not physically injured. The FAC will provide services from 11 a.m. up to 7 p.m., hours subject to change, at St. Martin de Porres Parish School at 5621 Elysian Fields Avenue. Victims can also visit fbi.gov/Bourbon Street Victims to fill out a short form and find additional information and resources. Joe Biden had earlier in a press statement stated that, "I have been continually briefed since early this morning by federal law enforcement leadership and my Homeland Security team, including Secretary of Homeland Security Ali Mayorkas, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, White House Homeland Security Advisor Liz Sherwood Randall, and the Mayor of New Orleans regarding the horrific incident that occurred there overnight. The FBI is taking the lead in the investigation and is investigating this incident as an act of terrorism. I am grateful for the brave and swift response of local law enforcement in preventing even greater death and injury. I have directed my team to ensure every resource is available as